I really enjoyed the job whenever I first came in, and I just started seeing small things that weren't sitting right, as far as like seeing the going over to the boss's house for the first time and seeing that 4 other people that work for him live there, and they're all kind of like stacked on top of each other. You got 2 couches that are filled by 2 people that are sleeping on the couches in the living room, and you've got every single room in the house pretty much put in. I was like, well, if this guy is supposedly making well over $100,000 a year, why is he having people inside his house? Is he legitimately actually trying to help people, or is he a cheapskate?
Yeah. So first, Dallas, why do you want to share your story?
I think it's important for people to know before they get wrapped into something they don't know about. Because since these companies are, I guess, how would you say, privatized, or they hide up under other big companies, when you look up advanced ventures marketing, or you look up any of these MLMs, these little small firms, you don't really get a whole lot of background. And so at first glance, I was coming from construction, and all the reviews in there, not knowing that most of them were fake, kind of like sold me on the deal at the time. So
Okay.
I don't want anybody else. I know this probably won't reach everybody by any stretch of the matter, but I feel like it should, whether it's Cydcor, what was the name of yours? I can't remember.
Smart Circle.
Smart Circle.
Yeah.
And there's one that's an A that a buddy of mine.
There's Abco, there's Cobra Group, there's Credico, Innovage. It's all the same.
Yeah, it's all the same shit. And people should be informed before they jump into something like that, you know?
Yeah. When you messaged us, you said, quote, "I was an assistant manager for almost a year and had been in the company for almost 2 years." So that tells me that you weren't like some flunky that quit after a few months because you couldn't handle it.
Right.
You were getting signups, getting sales, and doing what you needed to do. So can you take me through that first year when you were in the field and kind of working your way to that point?
So whenever, as far as like, are you talking like building the team and everything like that?
Yeah, just kind of like your experiences, sales. So first of all, you were with Cydcor, so you weren't standing in a Sam's Club selling shit. You were doing other
Exactly.
stuff.
I was actually in Walmart mainly. We did do Best Buys as well, if Comcast wasn't in there, which I don't know which company they were under, but we typically stayed in Walmarts. I really enjoyed the job whenever I first came in, and I just started seeing small things that weren't sitting right, as far as like seeing the going over to the boss's house for the first time and seeing that 4 other people that work for him live there, and they're all kind of like stacked on top of each other. You got 2 couches that are filled by 2 people that are sleeping on the couches in the living room, and you've got every single room in the house pretty much put in. I was like, well, if this guy is supposedly making well over $100,000 a year, why is he having people inside his house? Is he legitimately actually trying to help people, or is he a cheapskate?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell which one. But overall, I enjoyed the job at the beginning. It's mainly whenever I made it to assistant manager and I started getting hit with some really crazy curveballs. Such as, like, they told me that you were going to start making $185 per sale instead of $135, and you're going to make all this extra money. You don't have to worry about bills anymore, blah, 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 blah. And we're going to stick it in a separate bank account for you. And as soon as I got my assistant manager promotion, which is like, I mean, it was awesome. Like, they threw a big party for me, basically. Even had DJ lights. They were my DJ lights, but they were DJ lights.
The light behind you.
but when he pulled me in the back room, he was like, Dallas, there's some things that we need to discuss as far as like, compensation and all that other fun stuff. And he was like, now the $185, since we normally make $135, the extra $50 that I was supposed to start making as an assistant manager wasn't going to go on my payroll, which is like the first big red flag that I probably should have listened to at the begin with. But I had an entire team that was looking up to me. And I mean, I wanted to set a good example for them. I didn't want to just like leave, and plus I still had faith in the actual company in itself, maybe not the boss, but maybe for the opportunity, quote unquote.
I just want to go back to something you said earlier about $135 per sale. Because honestly, I know the only thing I know about Cydcor is what other people have told me. So, so was that based on how many signups you got, or how did that work?
So we sold direct TV,
okay,
and AT&T, and then when we moved down here, we did wireless, we did internet bundles, all kinds of other fun stuff. But it wasn't for the people that you just signed up. They had to get installed. You had to do follow through phone calls. Half the shit never got installed anyway. So in order to make a really good paycheck, you'd have to be extremely highly producing, like 13, 12 sales a week at least to make $1,000, which I mean could do, but it's unreasonable for some people without the very specific personality,
Yeah.
But yeah, they had to get installed. If they didn't get installed, what Cydcor would do, they would pay you half that $135 up front in good faith that it would get installed. And if it didn't get installed, they would take it from your paycheck. And then it would eventually, if you got enough of those, it would go into a bucket and it would keep building and building and building until you just couldn't pay it anymore and we'd let you go. I had started having enough as soon as we made it to South Carolina, because there was just like a lot of false promises that were made to me from, I'll use his first name, Ryan, such as like, I asked him one day how much was in my corporate account. And I think it was like after my 6th or 7th month of being an assistant manager, he was like, like 5,000 or 6,000, somewhere around there. And whenever I did quit, he basically said he didn't owe me any money and just took all my money, basically. So, but another big red flag is like he would, scream and yell at all of us in the mornings, or for morning meeting is what we called them, and for saying, we're just slacking, we're not doing our job. Basically just being a lazy ass, kind of, like he would go home every day at 2:00 in the afternoon while we're out in the field working. We only have like 4 people like to actually work, and even get in the office to grow. Excuse me, there's a plane flying over. Even to get the office to grow, we would hire, like, I'm not joking, like 6 to 7 entry levels, and then it would be up to me to train them all, because everybody that we eventually had when we first came down here left because they were sick of it as well. But I was doing my damnedest to stick it out, and I just couldn't do it anymore. Also bonuses, like throwing bonuses, saying, hey, I'm going to give you this, I'm going to give you that, if you do these things, and never following through on them. Ridiculous compensations. I even started, part of moving into ownership, you have to learn how to be the recruiter as well, which, I mean, I already worked Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then I had one day off on Tuesday, and then they started making me work for free on Wednesday to be the recruiter, to learn how to recruit people on the phone and stuff like that. And he refused to pay me for that time too. So that, it just, all these things just started stacking up.
Sure. Now, you mentioned earlier about going to the owner's house and seeing that there were like 4 or 5 people living together. Were there any other things you noticed about your owner that kind of put holes in the whole impression management of, I make 6 figures, I'm incredibly successful, I own my own business, and I'm this guy that everybody should be like?
Yeah, he drove like a 2006 Scion TC, and his wife had, I mean, it was a piece of shit. I mean, it was bad. And then also on top of that, his fiance, which this is a very consistent thing you could see throughout Cydcor, is all the owners are typically married or getting married, or girlfriends are the recruiters that are working for it. It's because they have no outside life. They have nowhere to go. Like they know nothing else. But he was always telling me, live, be conservative now so you could thrive later, basically, is what he told me. I was like, man, if I'm making $100,000 a year and my wife was driving around a pointy metal death trap and breaking down and was almost on bald tires every day, my wife would probably call me a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But yeah, and then also like he wouldn't even buy creamer, like for the coffee. Like he refused. He was like, "Bring y'all's own creamer." I was like, the fuck, man. I was doing construction before I came to the job. I thought it was a really good opportunity, and it was a lot of fun. A lot of things that attracted me to that business was the positivity. And anybody who has ever done construction before or any kind of hard labor jobs, a lot of the people there are not very positive.
Yeah.
And I just really wanted to get out of it. And I've always told my dad, is like, working hard's cool and all, and I'm sure it can be good money, but there's a point of you should be able to use your brain and work hard physically at the same time and make more money. So I don't want to just be a hard laborer for the rest of my life. That's just ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So I found Advanced Ventures. I started making really good money. I moved into account manager within my first 5 days and was immediately sold into the business. Started making like 10 to 13, sometimes 16 and 17 sales in a week. And I would like reach regional records. I've even got a magazine, and I think it's in the living room for like top sales rep in the country for the entire month of December. But after I built my team, our assistant manager at the time, Mike, right before I got promoted to assistant manager, he got promoted into ownership, and so we kind of split the offices in two. And Ryan kept on pitching the idea he wanted to move closer to family because he's got family in North Carolina. And I mean, I'm all about like adventure. Like I want to move out of Arkansas. I don't know if you've heard anything about Arkansas, but there's not really anything there. Mm-hmm. And I know my wife wanted to get a better job as well coming out of college. There was just nothing for us there other than family. So I was open to adventuring to some other place I've never been to before. And then when we got here, everything just kind of slowly started falling apart. I think what had happened is I built his office and made him a shitload of money. Maybe, I don't know if he actually made a lot of money. I don't know. And then he just got super comfortable and stopped giving a shit. Right now, I know he has 2 people in his office. Everybody else kind of left right behind me.
So like we've said, you dedicated 2 years of your life to this. You moved from Arkansas to South Carolina, but eventually you reached a point where you decided, I've had enough. I'm done with this. And that can be very difficult for anyone who's dedicated their life, 2 years of their life, to anything. How did you finally come to terms with leaving this business?
I was actually, me and my wife, right before we had got married, we were going to go get married in Arkansas. So we we drove all the way down to Arkansas. It's like 14 hours away. We got married. And on our honeymoon, we had an entire week in a cottage. In Eureka Springs, right, baby? Yes, Eureka Springs. And I kept on getting like nonstop phone calls from him, like nonstop. And he told me that because I had him book the cottage or the Airbnb with quote unquote my corporate account. Okay. And I told him I'm going to take an entire week off for my honeymoon. This is my honeymoon. And he kept on calling me. He was like, well, I thought you were going to come back. So what had happened was I told him to book it for a week. He booked it for 3 days or 4 days or something like that and tried to get me to come home early and act like it was a mistake and everything like that. And so I went up to the lady that was on her property who let us use the Airbnb, and I just handed her cash. It's like, we're staying an extra 2 days. And she's like, that's fine. But it was that. But I was sitting on the couch, and I think we were watching Parks and Rec, and I was having a realization of like how nice it is to spend time with my wife. Like, and it's been 2 years that I've actually had an entire like consistent 2 days to like even sit down or do anything with her, because I've just been chasing this wild dream, which she has been super supportive of. I don't know how she made it this far with my crazy ass, but or that crazy dream. But I was like, I don't want to do it anymore. I know my self-worth now. I know I can do anything that I put my head down to. I know one thing I did learn from that job is I can sell anything to anybody. Mm-hmm. So now I'm in car sales.
Okay. And it's interesting that you're doing that, because in this business, car sales is like the antithesis of this business because this company is so great and everything we do is wonderful. And car salesmen are these sleazy, sneaky people that you can't
They
trust.
say that.
Yeah. Now that you're in that industry, have you seen any parallels with what they've said in the business, or how is your life different now in that industry?
Man, the difference is I told her this like after I got comfortable with the job and actually learned everything that I needed to learn and actually get to know everybody. You know how you do when you move into a new
Yeah.
place or like go to a new job, you're kind of like anxious, you don't know everything. You got to get into flow. After I got in the flow, it's like a vacation. You know what I do for like 90% of my day? I sit at my computer and I wait for people to come up to the dealership and then I greet them outside. And 9 times out of 10, they already know what they want.
Mhm.
All I do is I take them to the car that they want. We go on a test drive. They ask how much the payment is. They like the payment. They buy the car. I deliver the car. They leave. And then they send me people to sell more to. It's not sleazy at all. I don't know what they were talking about. Matter of fact, Ryan, my boss, even told me, he's like, that's really competitive, pretty cutthroat business. You better, make sure you got something better than that. And I was like, all right, well, whatever. I made more than him probably the second month I was in the car business. Yeah, I probably made more than he made in my second month in car business.
One of the most common criticisms of people like you and myself and anyone who has a complaint about this business is, oh, they gave up too early. They couldn't hack it. They're failures. If they just stuck it out and worked harder, they would have seen the benefits. They would have made the money and they would have been successful. Yet what those people don't realize is that when you get to ownership, you make even less money than you
Yep,
were as
a lot of
as
times.
a leader in a lot of cases.
Well, it gets to a point like the biggest thing. Oh yeah, this is another huge red flag. Like, I'm a huge streamer, and most of the people in, today's generations do stream television versus cable. And I kept on telling my boss, it's like, we need to change something. Our sales are going down because people are switching to streaming services. And he was like, you're just not mentally tough enough to get it done, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's another reason why I was going to leave, because there's no other option. And that's another thing that I noticed in the hierarchy, is what I like to call it, at Cydcor. The only people that are making a lot of money are the people at the very top, and it typically consists of like 10, 12 people. But it's weird. They'll replace each other, like they'll just disappear. You'll never hear of them again. They'll just disappear. It's very strange. A big warning is that they prey on people that don't know anything yet. That's the hugest thing. Like, even if I never went to Advanced Ventures and I made it to, in those 2 years I was doing something else and I know what I know now and I actually found that position, I would tell people that that's stupid, because now I can see it. You know what I mean?
What were some of those things that you think would get somebody?
Just like people that are kind of lost at that age, especially like 18, 19, 20 years old, trying to like figure out where they're supposed to be in their life. That was my deal. That's the whole reason why I just wanted to make something of myself. I had dropped out of college. I didn't know what else I was going to do with my life. I don't know. I was in a worry that I wasn't going to make it anywhere in life. Basically, that's what it was. And I think they kind of prey on people like that. Like, you get felons in there sometimes. You get, I don't know, just kind of like people that don't have a direction in their life. A lot of times is the people that end up there.
And yeah, younger people, like you said, college dropouts, college graduates, college students. There's tons of that. The workforce now is different than it was 60 years ago. You can't get a job and stay there for 50 years. So there's always this sense of insecurity, this sense of not knowing where your opportunities go, and you add to that having $50, $70, $100,000 in college loans, and you feel desperate.
Yep. That's why I got out.
Yeah.
I was like, no, not doing it. But yeah, that's my biggest warning to people that are even thinking about it. Babe, do you remember the other one that Darian is doing? Amway.
Oh yeah. Very famous MLM.
He left one market MLM to go to another MLM, and I tried to tell him about it. He was like, bro, I'm trying to get time freedom. I was like, they're doing the same thing that they were doing to us when we were in Cydcor. There's nothing different. I don't know why you're wasting your time.
Yeah. That's unfortunate because yeah, Amway's been around a lot longer, but it's
Yeah, you can
same
find way more
same
stuff
thing.
on them.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen that too from several people that I personally went through the field with. They left
Mhm.
the business and they went right to another MLM, not Amway. Maybe it might not be like a famous MLM like Amway
It's the
or
same thing.
anything like that, but they use the exact same structures. They're using the same techniques to sell products, and it's kind of sad because
Mhm.
in a way you're kind of trapped in that MLM technique, and you're almost unable to break yourself out from it and really discover your own
Yep.
personal
Well,
capabilities.
they condition you to think that way
Yeah.
the entire time. And, anything other than what you're doing right now in this very second is important. Everything else around it's stupid. Don't worry about it. That person's stupid if they left,
Hmm.
Like, it's the same thing.
Yeah.